Emma froze, clutching the baby monitor as Ryan's voice floated from the speaker. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. Every word between him and Jessica was a knife twisting in her chest. She felt numb, like her world had split in two. The man she trusted, the father of her child, was sharing secrets, laughs, and promises with someone else, and she had no idea until now. Her hands trembled as she tried to steady her breathing. She wanted to scream, to confront him right there, but something inside told her to wait. She needed to see the full picture, to understand how long this had been going on. Every whispered conversation through the monitor revealed more lies, more betrayal. Emma felt tears sting her eyes, but she held them back. Her child was sleeping peacefully, innocent and unaware, and she couldn't let this destroy the moment of calm. Emma's mind raced with questions. How could he do this? Did he ever care about her? Every memory of their early days together now felt tainted, like she had been living in a lie. But as anger started to simmer beneath her shock, a small, fierce part of her surfaced. This wasn't just heartbreak, it was a call to action. She realized she didn't have to let this define her, didn't have to let him break her spirit. Over the next few hours, Emma sat quietly, listening, planning, watching. She took note of every word, every tone, every slip that revealed the truth. She didn't need to confront him yet, she needed control. The betrayal had given her clarity, she saw him for who he really was, and it was not the man she married. By the time Ryan walked through the door, Emma's tears had dried, replaced by a steady calm. She greeted him with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Inside, she was already crafting the plan that would change everything. This was her moment, not just to respond, but to reclaim her life and show him the cost of his lies. Emma couldn't stop seeing his face in her mind, smiling at Jessica while pretending to be devoted to her. Every word he had whispered through the baby monitor replayed like a cruel tape. Her heart ached not just from the betrayal, but from the realization that the life she thought they shared was a lie. The promises he had made on their wedding day, the vows to love and protect, felt meaningless now. She remembered the small moments they had shared, his hand in hers, the late-night talks, the way he used to look at her with admiration. Each memory now carried a shadow, a reminder that while she trusted him completely, he had been building a secret world with someone else. The excitement in his voice when speaking to Jessica was unbearable, a constant reminder that she had been replaced in his heart, even if only in part. Anger began to creep in alongside the heartbreak. How could he treat her this way? How could he lie so easily, so confidently? Yet beneath the anger, there was a cold clarity forming. Emma realized that this pain was also a gift, it was showing her who he truly was. She didn't have to cry endlessly or beg for explanations. She could take control. For hours, she replayed every word, every pause, every inflection that revealed his intentions. The hurt made her stronger, sharpening her mind. She could feel the seed of revenge growing, not out of cruelty, but out of justice. She didn't want to humiliate him for fun, she wanted him to face the truth of what he had lost. By the time Ryan returned home, Emma was quiet, composed, but the fire inside her was burning. She no longer felt helpless. This betrayal had broken his mask, and she was ready to use that clarity to protect herself and her child. She would not let this destroy her life. Instead, it would be the beginning of her strength, her comeback, and the reckoning he didn't see coming. Emma woke the next morning feeling hollow, but she knew she couldn't let Ryan see her pain. She poured coffee, smiled when he passed by, and even laughed at his jokes, though each laugh felt forced. Inside, her mind was racing. Every word she had heard through the baby monitor replayed constantly, making her blood boil. Yet she knew she had a choice: rush into confrontation and risk losing control, or stay calm and gather the truth. She decided on patience. Every small detail became important: where he went, what he said on phone calls, how he acted around her. She started noticing patterns she hadn't seen before, subtle lies that now made sense. She kept a mental record of each suspicious action, filing it away quietly, like a detective hiding clues. The anger simmered beneath her calm exterior, a quiet fire ready to ignite at the right moment. Even while acting normal, Emma felt the weight of betrayal every time Ryan smiled at her or held their baby. She forced herself to meet his gaze without flinching, hiding the storm behind her eyes. Each interaction was a test of her patience and her ability to stay composed. The more she observed, the clearer the picture became. He was reckless, careless, and arrogant, thinking she would never notice. Days turned into a tense rhythm. Emma moved through the house like a shadow, silent, watching, listening. Her anger didn't consume her, it sharpened her, made her strategic. She imagined the moment she would confront him, not with chaos, but with undeniable proof, leaving no room for excuses. By pretending everything was fine, she gained the upper hand. Ryan continued in his routine, unaware that the woman he had betrayed was quietly preparing her response. Emma felt a strange mix of power and resolve. The mask of normalcy hid a mind plotting justice, and every smile she gave him was a reminder that she was in control. Soon, he would realize that the betrayal had awakened a version of her he could never ignore. Emma bought a small notebook and began writing everything down. Every late-night call Ryan took, every sudden excuse, every unusual text or email she noticed, she recorded it all. She didn't just write what happened, she wrote the time, the tone of his voice, the way he looked when he thought no one was watching. Each entry was a piece of the puzzle, a way to see the truth clearly. She also paid close attention to the baby monitor. Sometimes Ryan would talk quietly, thinking the baby was asleep or she wasn't listening. Every whisper, every laugh, every name he mentioned became fuel for her anger. But instead of acting on it immediately, she used it to plan, to understand the pattern of his betrayal. Emma's journal became more than a record, it became a strategy guide. She noted his routines, the times he was most likely to speak to Jessica, and the small signs he left behind. She also reflected on his excuses, comparing them to what she knew. The inconsistencies stood out sharply, each one a crack in the image of the man she thought she knew. She didn't rush. Every observation, every detail, she filed away patiently. The process made her feel stronger. She realized that with careful attention, she could prove exactly what he had been doing, without relying on confrontation or emotion. The power was in the truth, and she was collecting it meticulously. Even as she acted normal during the day, inside she was constantly alert. Ryan didn't suspect a thing. He continued with his routine, unaware that every lie, every secret, was being recorded and analyzed. Emma felt a quiet satisfaction in knowing that soon, she would have the proof she needed to face him with certainty. By keeping careful notes and observing without revealing her knowledge, Emma had turned her heartbreak into clarity. The betrayal that had once made her feel powerless was now giving her the tools to take control. Every word, every action, brought her closer to the moment when she could finally reveal the truth and reclaim her life. Emma's friends started noticing the change in her. She smiled less, laughed less, and seemed lost in thought. They asked if everything was okay, but she just nodded and said she was tired. She couldn't tell them the truth, not yet. The pain was hers alone, and she needed to handle it on her terms. At night, when the house was quiet and the baby finally asleep, Emma would sit and remember the life she thought she had with Ryan. She remembered their first date, how nervous he had been, the way he promised to always be there for her. She thought about their wedding day, the vows they exchanged, the excitement of planning a future together. Each memory was bittersweet, a reminder of what she had believed in and what had been stolen from her trust. The contrast between those happy moments and the betrayal she now knew about hit her hard. She felt a rush of emotions, sadness, anger, disbelief, but also a rising determination. This pain would not destroy her. She realized that Ryan's choices had revealed his true character, and it was up to her to respond wisely, not impulsively. Emma felt waves of doubt and fear, wondering if she had missed signs, if she had been too trusting. Yet alongside that, there was clarity. She knew she had to stay strong, for herself and for her child. The heartbreak was real, but so was her strength. During the day, she forced herself to engage with life normally, feeding the baby, running errands, talking to friends, but inside, she was focused on the bigger picture. Every memory of betrayal, every pang of hurt, was fueling her resolve. She wasn't just surviving, she was learning, observing, and planning. By the end of each day, Emma would feel exhausted but sharper, more determined. The emotional roller coaster she rode was shaping her, transforming her heartbreak into quiet power. She knew that soon, she would be ready to take the steps that would change everything and ensure Ryan faced the consequences of his actions. Emma spent hours thinking about how she would confront Ryan. She didn't want it to be a scene filled with shouting or tears. That wouldn't give her the satisfaction or the control she needed. Instead, she wanted him to fully understand the weight of his actions, to feel the betrayal he had caused in a way he could not ignore. She pictured the moment in her mind. She would remain calm, collected, and let the truth speak for itself. Every piece of evidence she had collected, the late-night calls, the whispered conversations, the hidden messages, would be presented clearly, leaving no room for excuses or denial. She wanted him to see that she had known everything all along, and that he could no longer hide behind lies. Emma thought about timing. It had to be when she had full attention and when he couldn't escape. She imagined sitting across from him, letting him feel the silence before speaking. Every word would be measured, precise, cutting through the pretense he had built over the months. She wanted him to feel the shock and the weight of loss, not just of her trust, but of the life he had taken for granted. As she planned, Emma also considered her own safety and emotions. She had to remain strong, because the moment he realized she knew everything would be intense. Her anger was there, simmering, but she transformed it into focus. She reminded herself that this confrontation wasn't about revenge in the traditional sense, it was about justice and reclaiming her power. Emma rehearsed quietly, imagining different reactions and preparing herself to stay composed. She thought about what she would say and what she would leave unsaid. Every detail mattered, her tone, her posture, even her gaze. The more she planned, the more confident she became. By the time Ryan walked into her imagined confrontation, Emma was ready. She would not be overwhelmed by emotion, and she would not allow him to manipulate or charm his way out. This was her moment to take control, to expose the truth, and to show him exactly what his betrayal had cost him. Emma started leaving small signs of the truth where Ryan couldn't miss them. A note slipped into his wallet, a receipt left casually on the kitchen counter, little things that hinted she knew more than he thought. Each detail was carefully placed, calculated to make him pause, to make him question what he had taken for granted. She watched him closely. At first, he didn't seem to notice, but soon she could see the change. His confident smile wavered, his easy movements became cautious. Every glance over his shoulder, every hesitant word, told her that the hints were working. Emma felt a quiet satisfaction, knowing that the man who had betrayed her was beginning to feel the unease he had caused so many times in her heart. Emma kept herself calm on the outside. To anyone watching, she was the same loving wife, caring for the baby, managing the house, and smiling when he entered the room. Inside, however, she was patient and strategic. She didn't rush the process. She let him piece things together slowly, letting the tension build, so when the truth fully landed, it would hit harder. Each subtle reminder gave her more control. She observed how he reacted to each clue, how he stumbled over his lies, how small panic flickered across his face. The more he tried to maintain his composure, the more obvious it became that he had underestimated her. Emma's anger had transformed into a precise tool, and she wielded it quietly, deliberately. By planting these little hints, she was not just exposing him, she was showing him that she was no longer powerless. Every note, every carefully left trace, reminded him that she had eyes and ears everywhere. And the slow unraveling of his confidence was a warning: betrayal had consequences, and she would make sure he understood them fully. Emma felt a surge of strength. The man who had thought he could deceive her with impunity was now navigating a world where she held the control, where every move he made reminded him of the truth he had tried to hide. Emma finally decided it was time. She waited until the house was quiet, the baby asleep, and Ryan thought everything was normal. She called him into the living room, her voice steady, her expression calm. He looked at her, confused, sensing a change he couldn't yet name. She laid out the evidence carefully. The notebook with every late-night call, the receipts, the little notes she had left where he would find them, all of it was there. Emma didn't yell or cry. She spoke clearly, letting each piece of proof tell the story. With every word, she saw his confidence falter, the shock growing on his face. For the first time, he realized she had known everything. Ryan tried to speak, to deny, to explain, but Emma held up a hand and shook her head. There was no excuse, no clever words that could undo the truth. She let the silence hang, making him feel the weight of every lie, every betrayal, every moment he had taken her trust for granted. The calmness in her voice contrasted sharply with the storm of emotions inside her, making the impact even stronger. As she watched him crumble, Emma felt a mix of relief and empowerment. She had stayed patient, strategic, and now the truth hit him harder than anger ever could. He could no longer hide behind charm or lies, she had made sure the reality of his actions was undeniable. Emma also made him see the consequences, not just for him, but for the life he had risked losing. She explained calmly how his choices had hurt her, how he had betrayed their family, and how she would move forward without depending on him. The words cut deeper than any confrontation fueled by shouting could have. By the end, Ryan was silent, defeated, and fully aware of what he had lost. Emma didn't need to scream or beg for apologies. She had reclaimed her power with clarity and control. The betrayal had been exposed, and now he had to face the truth he had tried so hard to hide. She finally felt the freedom that came from turning heartbreak into justice. After the confrontation, Emma felt a weight lift from her shoulders. She had shown Ryan the full truth, and now it was time to focus on herself and her child. She started small, taking control of the household, making decisions for herself and the baby without relying on him. Every choice, every action reminded her of her independence and strength. She enrolled in courses she had postponed, joined a local moms group, and started building a routine that centered on growth, not heartbreak. Emma spent time with her child, enjoying every milestone, every smile, without the shadow of betrayal hanging over them. She realized that her happiness didn't depend on Ryan, it depended on her own choices and resilience. Ryan, meanwhile, was left to face the consequences of his actions. His confidence was gone. The casual arrogance he once carried disappeared, replaced by regret and isolation. People who knew him noticed the change, and he began to understand the weight of what he had lost. Emma didn't need to humiliate him, life itself became the proof of his mistakes. Emma also took care of herself emotionally. She exercised, journaled, and sought therapy to process the betrayal fully. Each step strengthened her, making her more confident and self-reliant. The pain of the past became a lesson rather than a burden. She learned that trust could be rebuilt, but only with honesty and respect, and she didn't need him to find that peace. As weeks passed, Emma's life began to flourish. She had friends, a strong support system, and a bond with her child that no betrayal could break. Ryan occasionally tried to reach out, but she politely kept her distance, knowing that closure came from her own growth, not from his apologies. In the end, Emma turned the tables completely. She reclaimed her life, her joy, and her self-worth. Ryan's regret was silent, a constant reminder of the choices he had made. Emma didn't just survive, she thrived. The betrayal that had once seemed unbearable had become the catalyst for her strength, independence, and ultimate victory. Emma sat by the window one quiet morning, watching her child play on the floor. The house was peaceful, filled with laughter and small joys she had almost forgotten existed. She thought about everything she had been through, the shock, the heartbreak, the sleepless nights wondering how someone she trusted so deeply could betray her. Each memory was still there, but it no longer held the power to control her. She realized how far she had come. The pain had been intense, but it had also shaped her, made her stronger, and taught her what she deserved. Emma understood that happiness wasn't something someone else could give her, it was something she had to claim for herself. And she had done it. Looking at her child, she felt a deep sense of gratitude. This little life was a reminder of resilience, of hope, and of the unconditional love that kept her going. She no longer dwelled on Ryan's betrayal, Instead, she focused on building a life full of trust, honesty, and joy. Every day was an opportunity to grow, to create memories, and to move forward without looking back. Emma also forgave herself for the pain she had felt. She had trusted, she had loved, and she had been hurt, but none of it diminished her worth. She understood that healing wasn't about forgetting, it was about accepting, learning, and choosing peace. Her strength now came from knowing that she had survived, and that nothing could take away the life she was building. As weeks turned into months, Emma found new routines, new hobbies, and new friendships that brought her happiness. She laughed freely again, felt excitement for the future, and experienced moments of calm that once seemed impossible. Ryan existed only as a memory, a part of the past that no longer defined her. Emma had moved on, not out of anger, but out of love for herself and her child. She had reclaimed her life, her heart, and her peace. The betrayal had tested her, but it had not broken her. In the quiet of her home, surrounded by the life she had created, Emma finally felt whole, free, and truly happy.